Hi, and welcome to Tremco Live, where we're socially distant but technically connected. We're coming to you live from Cleveland, Ohio, because we can't get out and engage with you regularly now. We wanted this opportunity to reach out every Friday where we can talk about your design industry challenges, so please keep submitting them and sending those in to us. And we also want to talk about construction trends. I am one of your hosts, Marcy Tyler, and I am the Director of Building Science for Tremco. And I'm joined by
Paul Hoogenboom. I'm the president of Tremco Construction Products Group, which, Marcy, is a fine collection of companies and brands.
We do have a fine collection of brands and companies, that's for sure. As always, we want to remind everybody that there's so many other people that support us each and every day, and Paul and I are just two of those people that are here for you. So how are you doing today, Paul?
I'm doing all right, Marcy, but you know, it's raining today.
It's raining again.
And if you're in building construction materials,
We don't like rain,
We don't.
but I hear it's going to be sunny this week.
I think it's finally going to be sunny. So I think we've had bad luck every time we've done these. I think this is our 4th episode. It's either been snowing or raining.
Yeah.
So
we're due for sunshine.
we're due for some sunshine. So today's topic was all about green construction trends. So if you go online and Google anything related to green construction trends, you're going to find a lot of different types of information. We've captured a few of this information on this slide here. One major resource is obviously the United States Department of Energy, right? They have this whole initiative called Better Buildings. They have a Better Buildings Challenge, and in that, it's all about reducing the consumption of buildings. It's pretty interesting.
It is, and I think kind of cool for us is I think all that technology is here today. We can actually do all these things. They're not somewhere off in the future, 5, 10, or 20 years from now. And I think we'll be able to share a few of those things today that really let you get to net zero, or in one case you'll see better than zero.
Better than zero, right? And a couple of the things listed here from Energy Sprung. They're saying California is all about getting to that net zero for all new commercial construction by 2030. So that's amazing that they're looking at being able to do that.
Yeah. And again, as I said a minute ago, we can get there in 2020. So
2030 ought to be a layup for California.
We've known through a lot of the research that we've done that just building airtight and using the proper products from a performance perspective can get you pretty darn close. But we do need to focus on things like energy efficiency. And that's what's pretty exciting about 2 other initiatives you can see on the screen from coast to coast. So you have Rocky Mountain Institute with their program called Realize, and it's all about that zero carbon, that revolution of how they can build and build more energy efficient and reduce that carbon footprint. You go all the way to the East Coast and you see Retrofit New York. So once again, these initiatives and these programs are really being focused out there. It's definitely a hot topic for so many reasons, and even more so relevant now with COVID-19 as well. So we like to start off with this video when we give presentations because we feel like it's so relevant in the discussion about being energy efficient and especially how our buildings are performing. This is a smoke bomb test that went off in a building that is just, their HVAC system just running normally. The difference here is we've covered up all the areas where air exchanges are supposed to happen. And let's see what happened to this building.
Marcy, what was the age of this building?
I believe it was 6 years.
6 years old. Yeah.
So not very old for something like this to happen. So what you're seeing here is anywhere the building was not properly detailed or a transition was not properly connected, you've got that smoke coming out. If smoke's coming out, that's just an indication that your HVAC system is going to constantly be running and cooling or heating depending on the climate.
Yeah, the one you see right away is the roof to wall connection.
Yeah.
And that is often the trickiest part of a whole building.
Yeah, I always tease, my kids always tease me, I guess, when I'm driving down the road, I'm looking at new construction and looking at that roof to wall connection, and it frustrates me if I think it's not being done or being addressed. So that's a simple one that we can do when it comes to new construction. Making sure we've got flexible products that go around different things like ducts, different types of penetrations. And if you watch this video to the entirety, which I won't show you, you're going to see it's all of those transition areas. So that's where we want to start off with, is making sure we're using products that are flexible, products that are durable, so that you're not going to have this issue that your HVAC system is going to be using all of that unnecessary energy.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, Marcy, that's often found in those transition areas in the specifications, you always have the word by others. And Marcy, how do we feel at Tremco about by others?
We like it to be by Tremco.
Right.
We run to that risk. We run to that opportunity. We've always done that. We've worked for many years with people like from the Department of Energy and focused on how we can provide solutions and work together. It is about that partnership of coming together with from different areas, having a consultant, having a contractor, having all these different parts come together.
But we want to take ownership for that interface,
Yes.
wherever they are on the building.
Absolutely. We started off talking about energy efficiency, and we talked about net zero buildings or zero net energy, which is another way that they're called. So essentially that means that you're building a building that's not going to consume any more energy than it's able to produce.
Yeah.
So it's pretty intense that California wants to get there in 2030.
Yeah.
And as Paul mentioned, we've already had the realization of this in some of our buildings.
Yeah, and I know we always think of, probably most people think California is really on the leading edge of this sort of thing, but here we are in Kentucky.
Yes, in
In
Bowling
our
Green,
example.
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
And Kentucky's long really, certainly in this type of construction, I don't know if leading is the right word, but they know it can be done. And it can be done at little or no extra cost. It just has to be a bit of focus in the design. And here's a great example of a school with Nudura, which is, I guess Marcy will cover that in the next couple of slides,
Yes.
what Nudura is.
Yes.
But it just goes back to, one, can be done today. Takes a little bit of focus. Probably doesn't take a whole lot more cost, and it's going to give a payback for the life of that building.
And I think that's the important point to bring up is that payback, right? So in this example, they're already being able to produce enough energy that they're getting energy credits.
Yeah.
If you go on our YouTube channel, the Tremco YouTube channel, you're going to see this in its entirety, this case study. And the representatives from the school are utilizing the funds that they would be putting into their paying their energy bills and giving it to programs and to their teachers.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly when you're in the public environment and you're dealing with both taxpayers and you're dealing with where you're trying to serve the public, being able to use those funds for something a little more productive is a pretty cool thing.
We had recently Chris Mathis from Mathis Consulting give a presentation to our whole company, and he said it would be great if every light switch had dollar signs on it, so you knew what it was costing you when you left that light on. And I'll say I want it because I always tease my daughter when I come home and she's got every light on in the house. So understanding where that money's going and ways that we can make a difference, like Paul said, are here today. He also mentioned that we're going to talk a little bit more about Nudura. So if you're not familiar with Nudura, it's an insulated concrete form company that is part of the Tremco Construction Products Group. We're very excited to have that part of us. And they really have a great system here when it comes to energy efficiency. So imagine you've got your concrete poured between two pieces of insulation. So that's that whole idea of the insulated concrete form. One of the examples shown here is just that temperature difference that you're going to achieve from outside temperature to inside temperature because you've got such a great insulation. And then you also mentioned thermal mass.
Yeah, that's you know, I know we talk a lot about R value, Marcy, but that thermal mass really slows down, you know, both the very, very cold or hot exterior and then keeping things temperate on the inside of that wall. So there's a lot of thermal mass sitting in that wall.
And a lot of the studies that we've done to show that difference, it's comparing it to wood structures. If you had a base wall made of wood and of course of steel studs too. So you're going to get a dramatically different level of energy efficiency when you're building something like an insulated concrete form.
Yeah, and I know it mentions here the 2 5/8 inch system. We're currently bringing the market 4 inches, so that gets us to R35, and then a few other bells and whistles in the system. But Nudura probably 20 some years ago really became an industry leader out of Canada, which of course nice and cold there during the winters, but they've really been a leader in promoting ICF as well as innovating in ICF. So it's very exciting. They joined Tremco a year and a half ago, and it's been very exciting to have them, you know, join the team and then educate us.
Absolutely.
On all the benefits of ICF.
it's definitely been an education. You mentioned the 4-inch ICF series, and I believe that came from the need for one of their builders that builds with them regularly, and they build office buildings, and it's that whole net zero or zero net energy goal, and it was one of his ideas that he wanted to do that. So being very innovative with our partners in the industry is really something.
And I know you mentioned an office building, so I think their tallest building to date is 25 stories, but you can really, I think ICF probably first began in below grade for insulating basements, and then sort of went above, and there's really no limit to going how high you want to go and what you want to build. And
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of times when people think of insulated concrete forms, they think basements, right? Mm-hmm. So to mention that we've gone as high as 25 stories is one of those myths. We mentioned in our last episode, our Build Meets World vlog. We are currently working on a vlog. Eric Miller from Nudura is building one about those ICF myths. And that's one of them is It's not just about your basement. It's not just about a few stories. We can build to something like 25 stories.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. If you get the chance, go online and see how a Nudura house is put together. But I call it Legos, and it's not a lot. It's really, I don't know, when I look at a Nudura form, it sure looks a lot like Legos to me, snaps together, and the speed of construction, ease of construction. Marcy, I mentioned to you earlier today that, of course, it's concrete is what goes in. Historically, the ICF systems are built with rebar in them for reinforcement. And part of our portfolio within the construction products group is Euclid on the concrete product side. And with Nudura coming on board, we've taken the world-leading Euclid fibers capability, which then allows the rebar to come out, which just makes that material that much greener than without the rebar and all that labor. And I think we're doing our first test house without the rebar, and we think our performance will be equal to or higher.
It's incredible.
That'll be very, very exciting, so that it won't just be ICF now too, there'll be innovation going on inside that wall.
That's incredible. So further, something you may not even consider when you're thinking about all the benefits of having something so energy efficient like an insulated concrete form is also that quiet comfort that you're going to be able to achieve. Yeah,
that's that was one of these properties that kind of snuck up on me once the company joined us, but they have a lot of great case studies of building immediately adjacent. So these are public structures, can be a school, can be whether it's an office building or a hotel, but you're immediately adjacent to a highway and a lot of noise. And you literally, if you didn't look outside, you have absolutely no idea. It's just absolutely quiet inside, which is a great issue of comfort. And I think the other exciting thing is it opens up for the occupant all this land or space that perhaps you're like, I can't really go there. So it really opens up a lot of interesting pockets to where you can really construct now that you couldn't before.
And I think a lot of times once that is understood how incredible that lack of sound transmission because of this, they're really starting to compartmentalize as well. So if you're doing a residence or even an office building, that in those interior walls are being built with this too, because obviously that's going to give you even more energy efficiency, indoor air quality, and then your sound transmission too.
And that's a great point on the inside, as well, to be able to do that.
So obviously we've talked to you a lot about the insulated concrete forms and Nudura and how energy efficient that type of construction can be. Obviously more so maybe new construction or additions to your building, but there's a lot that we can do when it comes to restoration work. Here are some of the products that we're pretty excited about that are considered bio-preferred.
Yeah, this one's interesting, and 70%, I think a lot of people hope or struggle to get to 30. And so you're seeing systems here, 70%, 60, 30, but the ability to just have, a renewable material. And I think it's something that we're going to get better and better at, Marcy, as we're, it's a very volatile world we're living in today. Everybody knows that the energy markets have crashed, but it wasn't that long ago that, the conversation swings in the other direction, and everybody knows it's a depleting resource. And of course, everything that goes with climate change, things of that nature. So we've done a pretty nice job on our biomaterials. More to come.
And the low no odor aspect of it, I was doing a presentation with some of our colleagues and they applied the product in the room. I didn't even know they were doing it.
Yeah, they'll often, a little bit of a marketing stick. They'll bring in a container and without telling who they're presenting to, they'll just open it and they'll leave it open on the table. And then a half hour later, they'll remark about its low no odor. But the key thing there is it means you can work on fully occupied space. And so that's really opened up for all of the public institutions or anything that sort of have daily occupancy, that it really opens up your ability to perform the work. A lot of that can mean you can get better contractor availability, resources, things of that nature, but working in occupied space is important.
This is an example of when we did, which is now Rocket Mortgage Arena. So where the Cavaliers play here in Cleveland, and there's an article actually all about how Cleveland's program about focusing on bio-based products and how we actually utilized our products on the roof restoration. So you've got some of the workers there applying the product. And what's interesting too, so not only are we using these bio-preferred products, we're giving that the low no odor aspect, and then it's zero waste to landfill because we are not removing, we're cleaning and restoring.
Yeah, and the really cool thing is you can just keep restoring it. And so the system's designed in a way that whether it's 20, 30, 40 years later that you see a little bit of the wear of the top coat the first time you see the base coat, you can just keep restoring it. It chemically bonds to itself. So it's really the last roof you'll ever need.
Exactly. So that there's that huge benefit on so many different levels, but that zero waste to landfill and just being able to continue to restore it without replacing it.
There was another key attribute of what was really important to the owners on this job, and I think you'll get to that in a slide or two.
Perhaps in this
slide. Oh, it's
slide?
our next slide.
Right there.
Yeah, so that's, we around here, we call it Roof Tech 1.0. Of course, that makes you suspicious. There's a 2.0 and a 3.0 and a 4.0, but those will be for other meetings or other presentations. But many years ago, I got a call from, we were calling on a large university system, talking to them about roof restoration. And at some point, facilities there said, sorry, we can't restore the roofs. And we asked why. And they said, well, we're in an EPA non-attainment zone. We're not allowed to clean and surface prep and have that runoff go into the stormwater system. And if you've ever sampled what's going on top of a roof, there's a whole lot of stuff dropping out of that air onto that roof. And so out of that, we developed the ability to clean the roof with 100% water capture. And that came from an RPM sister company that's long been making equipment of this nature. So our ability to do 100% water capture and clean that roof for that arena, which really sits on the banks of the Cuyahoga River, which goes right into the Lake Erie, that was a key decision factor for the owner.
And just getting a little more familiar with this, I learned that they not only are we cleaning it through a filtration system, it is also using 60 to 70% less water.
Yeah, because it just continually reuses and filters.
Yeah. So that's amazing. And you might want to know, is it loud? It's not. It's quiet, and 2 men can clean about 40,000 square feet in 8 hours.
Yeah, and I think you'll also see up there, we've had other experiences that as soon as the roof is cleaned, often they have to reset the internal air systems because you're typically reducing the surface temperature of that roof by as much as 30 degrees F just by cleaning it back to its new light or white color. So we think a best practice is, clean your roof every 2-3 years and have a much lower cooling load going on inside that building.
So this is something that works great if you want to clean your roof, and then also if you want to clean it, obviously from a maintenance perspective, but then if you want to then restore it so it preps the surface, so it allows for really great adhesion.
Yeah, one of the key benefits is if you were to pressure wash, you probably pressure wash day 1 and then you can coat day 2. In this case, you can pretty much start coating a couple of hours after because you really are getting that water right off that surface right away. And so it makes for much more efficient.
Vacuuming it up as it's cleaning.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. So there's a lot more information on our website. There's a video of it as well. So always more information for all of these topics if you're interested in that. We're also, when we're looking at different things when it comes to green construction, obviously we're all looking online, finding different types of information, especially when we're thinking about our current state with COVID-19. Gord Cook is a very a close colleague of mine in the industry, and I wanted to give a shout out to him with this slide. He does a whole program called Construction Instruction. So please look him up if you're looking at getting additional training in this time frame. There's a lot of great information there, and as you can see, he has the experience for 25 years in working with energy efficient residential building. And he has got a lot of blogs, a lot of information, and his most recent one is all about high performance homes in COVID-19. So I figured it was relevant to share this and to share the information from Gord, so definitely check that out. What's great about Gord is he is affiliated with AeroSeal and AeroBarrier, which is something that we wanted to make sure we talked about today with all of you. So what we've talked about so far is, obviously, there's a lot we can do when we talk about new construction, right? We want to make sure we install appropriate products. We want to make sure we're making all the connections so that we're not going to have a leaky building. We've talked about restoration of your roof and how you can restore that roof and get it back to being clean and energy efficient. Like Paul mentioned about that white roof, and actually lowering your thermostat on the inside because it's no longer a dark color, it's back to its white reflectivity. And this is just another aspect that we should all consider when we're thinking about our buildings and its efficiency. What this company does is they work on sealing the inside of ducts. So imagine you've got your HVAC system running all through your house or your commercial construction, and how well is each of those interfaces sealed?
Yeah, and I think, just as a layperson, you and me here, you're thinking, how the heck do you get inside all that ductwork and seal it up? And AeroSeal has really innovated a very cool system. We don't have enough time to fully describe it here. You can certainly find that online. And we've been their partner because we've been helping on the chemistry that goes into how that works. But typically people think of what I call mechanically sealing something, which whether that's a sealant or that's tape, but that can only get you so airtight, whether it's ductwork or your house. And they have a way of, in essence, aerosolizing and then pressurizing, and then using the physics of how air moves as that little ball goes around the corner in that little gap that you see in the before picture right there, Marcy, then that bubble will open up and it will seal that up. So they have the ability to get that sealing to a very, very low level that you simply can't achieve in what I call mechanical or a manual sealing method. And of course, you can get places that you just can't get to.
Exactly. You may not be able to even access it or visually see it to be an issue, but this will find it. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. So we wanted to make sure you guys, everyone watching today, knew of these opportunities for your buildings. I like to share these pictures here. So these are two pictures. One is a mall and one is the airport. And what I call here is how they're handling water management, right? So, and I'll be the first one to admit in front of all of you today that we don't fix things until we absolutely have to, right? We try to maintain situations. I still lead a gutter on the side of my house, Paul. So we don't fix things until we absolutely have to, and then sometimes till there's some extreme damage, right? So what we wanted to really express to everyone today is we have lots of solutions for detailing of when you see issues with water management, but the one thing we know you will not wait to fix is if your HVAC system goes down.
That is true, Marcy. And
you will find a way because you have to if something happens to your HVAC system.
I mean, I sign off on all the capital spending within our group, and I got to tell you, when that HVAC unit goes, we spend the money because that building comfort just goes to zero fast.
And there's a lot of information if you look online that is very detrimental, not only in the occupant comfort, but in the issues that can come from not having a functioning HVAC system. And I think we mentioned it last week, how quickly the air can get contaminated if you're not running an HVAC system regularly.
Yeah, it's interesting. We know how to look for that, but if you look all around you in a building and you start seeing whether it's the dust or the little mites or things of that nature, how very, very quickly you get a lot of what I call airborne debris when things aren't working well.
So we wanted to bring this as an opportunity to speak to everyone today about those 4 questions to guide you to an A+ when it comes to your HVAC system.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you ask the 4 questions to the ordinary person, you'd be, I didn't even know I could clean these things. And how do you properly seal your ductwork, right? That seems like magic when you watch AeroSeal, and they're very unique at what they do. And is your building airtight? Of course, if you just look at all the little call outs there's so many parts of the building that you'd have to think about. And then building pressurization. People don't really think about, am I negatively pressured or positively pressured? Or better yet, Marcy, which one do I want? Or how much do I want?
So we're pretty excited today to have a guest joining us. Frank Santini is going to help explain a little bit further on those things that we can do. He is from the company Pure Air. Out of Tampa, Florida, and they are indoor air quality experts. Frank, welcome.
Thank you, Marcy. Paul, it's a pleasure to be here.
We're very happy to have you. So can you tell us a little bit more about Pure Air and your role with Pure Air, as well as just what's going on these days with COVID-19 and the things that you're working on? The slide does show a post from your colleague Alan and how he's talking about some situations that we could all be experiencing if we're not paying attention and maintaining and cleaning our HVAC systems.
Yeah, I mean, you guys did a nice job of touching on some of the general subjects already. For instance, Paul mentioned how if an HVAC system goes down, that's one of the first things you'd be signing off on to get it back going. That's one of the things that we do is try to extend the life and maintain HVAC systems so they last longer. And that's part and parcel to our overall goal as a company, which is improving the indoor environment inside buildings, the indoor comfort and the health of the building. Because if the health of the building is optimal, then the health of the people inside that building is where it needs to be. And that's what we're going for as we move further here in the 21st century, as we get better at developing green construction techniques, as you're talking about today. We're a big part of that as we try to increase the indoor quality and optimize it for folks inside hospitals and universities, schools, and many other types of facilities.
So tell us a little bit about your personal experience with Pure Air. I know you joined them how long ago?
It's been about 3 years, Marcy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic experience. I personally came from a situation where I did not have much experience in the indoor air quality field, but although was somebody who was passionate about the green movement in general, and so we're a minority-owned business, and we have just a fantastic team here at Pure Air that I've developed lifelong friends, and also really became a big advocate of the kind of work we're doing. Just by way of an example, we've done projects where we've come in and into a hospital and found some pretty serious conditions as it relates to the condition of the HVAC system, mold and whatnot inside of a system that may serve a very critical area of a hospital. And we've been a part of projects in which we've gone in and hygienically cleaned that system so that we know when we're done, we're doing a public good by making sure the patients who are breathing the air coming from that particular HVAC system are now going to be safe. So that's just one example of many examples of which we're coming in, and I feel like we're like indoor air quality superheroes in a way you could put it.
I bet it does feel that way. I know when we think about it, it's the indoor air quality. If we can't smell it, I don't think we think about it, right? But it's so relevant, especially now with COVID-19 and how important it is for that.
Yeah, and I think I've long been an avid follower of the work that Alan did in founding Pure Air and and that Frank's a part of, but when you first see an HVAC system, when it gets opened up and hasn't been well maintained, it's a bit of an oh my God moment. And then of course, when you see, and you can see this online on the Pure Air website, when you see the before and after, I think all of us want the after part. And it's pretty cool that Pure Air has really been a pioneer in that field for many, many years. And I really like that we're partnered up with them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, I know, Frank, there's a lot of information on your website. I saw a lot of different videos. Is there anything else from a resource perspective you want to mention?
Oh, there's so much to mention, Marcy. And I know that we have a limited time here. I mean, you know, you have to think about the building holistically. I mean, this is a great topic here, from the barrier to the roof, to the HVAC system, to the indoor air quality in general. I mean, even today, as you think about indoor spaces, we have much better access to HEPA filtration. So we can have our own personal, monitors and purifiers nearby our desks. One thing, actually, speaking of that, we talked about briefly HVAC system, but one thing that's exciting in terms of the indoor air quality inside buildings is the ability to actually set up sensors around the buildings to be able to monitor indoor air quality parameters 24/7. So that way, if you hear about all these situations where, there's a sick building or something wrong that's making somebody feel like the building's creating a health problem for them. Well, if you have sensors inside the building, you can catch those problems before they turn into a potential litigious situation or a situation that may be really detrimental to human health. So those kind of technologies are one of many other technologies, like biophilia, having plants and whatnot inside of a building that has become more popular lately. So there's lots of different exciting things going on, but we're excited and happy to be part of the solution in optimizing indoor air quality, and particularly optimizing the HVAC hygiene, the cleanliness of our air distribution system as we move further into the 21st century, as we try to spread the word that this is very, very important from a number of perspectives, from human health to energy savings.
One thing, Marcy, I'd encourage all our viewers, Pure Air does a great job on social media, producing content, and there's so much to learn because it's really, I think for most of us, a new topic, but get yourself signed up on their website and they'll be feeding a lot of great information to you.
That's great. Frank, thank you for joining us. And as Paul mentioned, there is a lot of great information on there. I know when Paul and I were talking last week about this topic, you brought up HVACs and systems and how to maintain them and what we need to do. And it's something I had not even thought of. And I'm talking and educating people on building performance and air leakage. And, here's it is a new topic for me. So I definitely was appreciative of being able to talk to both Alan and Frank this week, learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah, and Alan's cool because he's really, for me, I look at him as sort of he's the GOAT, greatest of all time. He really invented this thinking. I think he goes back, Frank, 36 years in terms of founding the company. He's really led the thinking on this for many, many years.
And that's Alan Wozniak,
yep.
Right? So Alan Wozniak with Pure Air, Frank Santini with Pure Air. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Paul and Marcy, for having me.
So we started off talking about green construction. We talked about buildings, performance, energy efficiencies, and new construction, restoration, and went all the way through to the HVAC system. I think we pretty much covered all the things we wanted to, except.
I was going to say, yeah, we covered a lot.
We covered a lot.
And I think earlier on I had talked about this notion of the life of a building when we talked about restoring the roof on the Rocket Mortgage Center there. And I think the one thing that goes along with it is I always call it the promise. And the promise, I feel, is the warranty that you provide. And the thing, if we go back many years, Marcy, when I sort of first got to know Tremco, but the industry, when you look at a thing called a warranty, tends to be many pages long and very small type. And all that type is exclusions. And the exclusions are telling you why you're not going to get whatever it is you bought. And so we went to work on something that we now around here call plain and simple. Plain is because the words are English, meaning you can actually understand what they mean. They're not fancy legal words. That doesn't mean I'm not poking fun at the lawyers here. And there's only 156 of them, because if you're not going to use a lot of words to say why you're not going to get something, really all you have to say is what you bought,
Right.
What's in the specification is what you're going to get. And so we call that our plain and simple warranty. It's 156 words. And so behind all the things that we share every week, we encourage you to think about that. That says if it's not simple language that really says you'll get what you bought, and if not, I'll fix it. There is another way. And so that notion of the life of a building and what stands behind that promise. So plain and simple.
Plain and simple. I think I heard you last week mention you were going to add a few more words just to get to 168.
Yeah, 168, for those of you who don't know, that's a special number at RPM. The RPM founder, Frank C. Sullivan, back in 1947 or 48, I always forget which year it is, Marcy. I should know that. But believe that, his core belief was there's 168 hours in the week. It's what God gave you. What you do with that is real important. And so I always had in his license plate 168.
68.
And that's still a pretty big number around here.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody for joining Paul and I today. Thank you, Frank, for joining us. We want to make sure everyone knows that we will continue to do these every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Next week's topic.
What is it?
It is prefabrication and modular construction.
Oh, very exciting. That's one of our absolute favorites. So, Marcy, we'll do a lot of work this week to make next Friday exciting.
I'll get working on it right now. Thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great long weekend, and hopefully the weather is well so you can get outside, enjoy your family and friends, and everyone please stay safe.
Yeah, we'll see you on our next broadcast.
Thank you.